Lunta Television.
Present attendance to the funeral, including the events of 10th and 11th June following the loss of contact with the aircraft, is set out fully in part 2 of the submission below. I now come to the part 2, Honorable Chairman and Committee. I decided to put it in a day-by-day chronology of events because it was easier and simpler for me and also for user-friendly. Number 1, in the late morning of 8th June, on a Saturday, I learned of the passing of Mr. Rafka Sambara, SC, but it was through social media reports. I subsequently contacted Mr. Mwanga, who was the Deputy Inspector General of Police, to ascertain the circumstances relating to the social media reports and also confirm, because as a senior person, I wouldn't want just to pick things without confirmation with the right authorities. So he advised me that yes, I think there was discussions of a post-mortem investigation likely to be conducted, and that indeed that death had taken place and police was aware. But he didn't have sufficient information on the cause of death, and investigations were going on. There was also no clarity yet in terms of the exact location of the funeral, but that there were probably family consultations underway, since there was an uncertainty as to whether burial would be in Blanta or in Katabe. So based on that, in my own, now as a person, it was in my considered view that probably then burial would not be quick. If they are going to do post-mortem, carry the body maybe to Blanta, then Katabe. So that was my thinking. The same afternoon, I contacted the clerk to cabinet to actually find out whether preparations for memo have started, whether he had heard about the funeral and preparations for memo, because being a former cabinet minister, military honors would be there. But there was, of course, uncertainty as to how to proceed, knowing that Honorable Kasambara had a court conviction, raising the question whether he would be entitled to the military honors. So with that information, I consulted the Minister of Justice on the correct procedure and whether military honors would apply or not. And the Minister of Justice advised me that the decision on military honors was the President's prerogative and was not only dependent on whether there had been a conviction. In that case, I relayed back to the clerk to cabinet and I advised him that regardless of the conviction actually, which was thus a discussion between us, the matter of military honors remained the presidential prerogative, and that OPC's duty to provide condolence money and government representation, given that Honorable Kasambara was a former minister, we still had that obligation. So following this, of course, they did the initial draft, but I finally finalized it and submitted a memo to the President, notifying him of Mr. Kasambara's passing and also seeking approval on 3 matters. Number 1, it was military honors to be granted to the late Kasambara as his prerogative. Number 2, recommendation that Honorable Richard Chimwendo represent the government at the funeral. And number 3, release of condolence money, which the clerk to cabinet had advised me was 5 million kwacha to the family. So the President approved these 3 requests. On Sunday, I had traveled initially to Area 25. There was a Sunday paper in the morning. It was a big function. But thereafter, I went to my village because I was preparing my mother's tombstone the following week, unveiling. So while I was there on my way, I saw on social media, I think, that contrary to my earlier assumption, the funeral of late Kasambara burial was going to take place the following day on a Monday in Katabe. And also comments circulating that Vice President would be attending. So, of course, it made me like, since I had that assumption initially, I didn't really pay much attention that it would be maybe few days away. This now made me really to panic a bit because then I had to follow up. So knowing that I was away all day, I first of all tried to find out whether there was any memo which had come to the house as feedback from the president, because sometimes State House would call, my assistant would go collect memos and deliver them at the house. So there wasn't, and when I followed up, and before following up with the president, I called the PS in the vice president's office, like Sikwese, to check with him whether the vice president was indeed back in the country and whether he would attend the funeral. His response was that Sanabange Chiganizo. So I said, okay, Mugabanga Chiganizo, then Mudiuze. My main reason actually within me was to establish, for protocol purposes, that if the vice president was going as the most senior member of cabinet, then he should be accorded the right protocol to avoid a situation where the most senior government guest would be a minister in the presence of a vice president. That is, it's out of order. So this was really my main concern. So when I reached home, that was around, I think, 5-6 p.m. because I was on the way from the village going to Lilongwe. I also sent a message to the president following up on the memo that had been sent to his office previous night, which was a Saturday night, and he indeed responded that he had already cleared the memo and that probably delay to reach me was that being a Sunday, his team was not in office. So he confirmed that we were to proceed with the condolence money and with Honorable Chimendo to traveling to represent government. Between approximately 7, because remember it was between 5 and 6 I was coming from the village, but I think between 7 and 9, I don't recall much in terms of the exact times because my phone is still in the custody of police and I've not been able to use it to help me jog my memory and find some of the conversation I was making that time. But what I recall, to the best of my recollection, is that I made and had received a series of calls regarding the funeral arrangements between that period. First, I had called the clerk to cabinet to inform him that the funeral was in fact indeed the next day and that we needed to expedite processing of the money and the other required arrangements. I also, and then I got also, Mr. Sikwese subsequently called me back to inform me that yes, the vice president would indeed travel and that he would be traveling by plane. So following this, I called Honorable Chimendo to convey that the vice president would be attending and would therefore represent government. But we discussed that he should still proceed to the funeral and support the vice president. So the issue was now the travel, since the vice president was traveling by plane, and it was, okay, let me find out if he can just join the vice president on the plane. So I called Mr. Sikwese again regarding a seat for Honorable Chimendo. But he told me there was no space available on the aircraft, as then Madam Mary Chilima was also going, and he said even him, the PS, would not be traveling on the plane. I therefore conveyed this to Honorable Chimendo, and we agreed that he should just travel by road, start off maybe around 4 a.m. I also received a call from the Attorney General, Thabo Nyirenda, who was seeking to find out whether military honors would be granted. And he was actually asking me to write a memo to His Excellency, the President, then requesting the same. And but after his call, I also got a call from the President who informed me that, of course, he had decided that military honors should be given to late Kasambara. So following this, I called the clerk to cabinet again to ask him in terms of protocol, that what is the procedure for arranging military honors. He advised that the first step would be to speak to the legal officer at the Malawi Defence Force so that they begin the process. So I instructed him that he should proceed to call the MDF legal, inform him the directive on military honors, and also proceed with the required and necessary processes. Knowing that it was already in the night on Sunday, I said he should send a WhatsApp message, he should make a call, and that he advised that letters will go in the morning once we are in the office to confirm what we had sent. I also personally sent a message directly to the MDF commander, informing him that the president had directed that the late Kasambala should be given the military honors. So this was on Sunday night. On Monday, 10th June, in the morning, likely around 8 a.m., I think, I received a call from the MDF commander informing me that since the funeral was now involved in military honors, then the Minister of Defense may be representing government. But I informed him that this would not be proper procedure, as a vice president was going there, and as per cabinet protocol, this was the most senior member of cabinet proceeding to the funeral, and would be the one then to represent government. I subsequently received a call also from Minister of Defense, then Honorable Nkani, who informed me that he would be representing the government at the funeral, that the president had called him directly and instructed him to do so. But I also informed him that no, since now we have new information developments, that the vice president was going to attend, cabinet protocol required that the vice president represent government. I continued with my normal government business, which included proceeding to State House to meet His Excellency the President, as the President was leaving that afternoon, and among other matters to inform him of the Vice President's travel to the funeral and the changes which I had made as per protocol. My normal practice, actually, when I have a briefing meeting with the President, I call people again to confirm the position on things which I'm here to brief the President. So before I enter the office with the President, I called Mr. Sikwesi again, and the idea was to confirm with him that has the Vice President indeed traveled to the funeral. He said, oh yes, I believe he was just looking at the time. So I was in the President's office for approximately an hour plus, and among other matters I discussed with him government business, I informed him, I informed him that the Vice President was back in the country from South Korea, and that he had gone to Katabe for the funeral, that he would come back to meet him and see him off. And at that point, I also took advantage to ask His Excellency that whether he had also delegated Honorable Nkani, to which he responded that that would be irrelevant if the Vice President is there, the most senior person would naturally be the one representing. Actually, he spoke in Chicha. Upon exiting the President's office, I can't recall exactly, but I got to, either it was on, because normally I would still go browse, Facebook just to see what is going on.